Hello, hello. Welcome back to Every Kind of I Do. This episode is going to be so Jurassic. And if you haven't figured out, I've labeled this one Jurassic Parkin'. Mostly because this couple was a delight to work with. They had this idea that nobody knew about. Like nobody knew they were going to show up on their ceremony site in dinosaur suits. And then the other thing I love about what they did is they recreated things from France and specifically in Paris, like these staple items like the Eiffel Tower and a whole bunch of different monumental things from the city that they wanted to also incorporate into the wedding. And I'm sure there was like a little bit of singing involved, a little bit of, back and forth. It was just lovely. And it was probably the hottest October day I've ever dealt with so far in Texas. October is usually like prime month here. So I want to get into this because it is just if you've seen videos of people in these dinosaur suits, it is really comical. It makes you laugh. And I think that ideally, not only was their love story just full of love, but it was also full of laughter. And I think that's really where I love talking about this kind of stuff. So I really wanted to show you the hard work that they put into these decorations. You can see a little Eiffel Tower, the little arch. This is done sort of comic book style. So I still can't believe this was a thing. And we only had a little bit of wind. So if they did fall, it was maybe once or twice. And we tried to prop them up, or I say we, like we as a collective team were eyeballing to make sure everything was still standing by the time the ceremony started. So I love the details. Check out these details. I really wanted y'all to see this of the work they put into this, the recreations of these monuments. They don't have to be exact, but you notice that when you zoom out, like nobody can really tell the difference. It's a great artistic rendition of things from Paris, France. I was delighted that they did this. I just, as an artist, as an artist, I'm thinking about creativity and crafting and, you know, we do cosplay a lot, right? So we're thinking about outfits and attire and decorations and all this stuff that goes in on your event or wedding. So I just love that these turned out so good, and I have probably have them in a couple of more photos too, just so you can see. But this is when they came in. So when they came in, they met each other. They walked next to each other down. But when you're walking in these suits, they kind of wiggle back and forth. So they were like wiggling all the way down the aisle. And they had a nice long walk to a song that they both loved. And then they came down to the officiant. Now, the officiant did not know this was happening. So a lot of her reactions are very genuine, which I really love. I told you in the previous episodes, I love surprises, meaning if you're going to surprise somebody, I'm in for it. Just let me know ahead of time so I can be prepared. So nothing wrong with that, right? And so they also, because it was such a hot day, they had to get a few pop-up tents to kind of like um negotiate with the weather. Okay, so we had to negotiate a little bit with the sun. There wasn't enough shade, so they brought in some shade. So if you see this thing right here, this is a tent leg, just so you if you wonder what that is. And then they had everybody set up in good places so they could be as much in the shade as possible. Now, also remember that they chose to do this in dinosaur suits. So even though there's a little fan running inside there, it was pretty toasty warm. So luckily, they took them off for the actual ceremony, and just kind of shed their skin. And then we put them back on later for photos. So this is our little moment, just kind of hanging out in the garden. So this was like in the middle of a city, just this cute little garden, all set up. It's a nature center. And with nature centers, they're all about nature. So it's obvious they have this whole garden area. They have little signs, they have educational spots. They have a little room space that you could rent out for your reception and like they set up their own ceremony site. So whatever you saw, they set it up and tore it down. Like that was part of the deal, right? So but this is what they wore underneath their dinosaur suits. Now I want to bring into attention how fun and funky these are. She's got this beautiful red splotchy lovely neckline dress. She's got her flowers. She's got her comfortable shoes. You know what? They're just hanging out and having a good time and staying cool as much as possible in the shade. This is me just being creative with them and letting them have a little bit of time to themselves before we head back into our Jurassic outfits. And, we decided as a team, as a collaboration, that we would have the dinos stomp on the monuments very much like, um, why am I spacing out? Godzilla. Kind of like have a Godzilla moment where he's smashing into buildings and stomping on them. So think of it like that, except dino suits. So this is just a beautiful moment between the two of them, and I was just really happy to frame it with some of the sculptures there on site because it's a nature center meets art area too. So there was lots of artistic sculptures and noisemakers and wind chimes and stuff like that. So this is after we've had our beautiful reception time. They had snacks, they had decorations. I'll get into all that at another episode, but for today, we're talking about the dinos and what they did during their ceremony and then after the ceremony. So there was a lot to take in for them hanging out with the family, the friends, getting something to eat. They had a lot of cold drinks. We were all trying to stay cool in the air conditioning. And then, right as towards the end of the time slot that we had, we came back out and the shade had moved just a little bit further down so we could kind of hide in the shade a little bit and do some more photos. So, this is them kind of like stepping on and squishing one of the monuments. And I have several versions of this, but I chose this one because you can clearly see it's so cute. It's like a little foot stepping on it. Because you can see like I've never worn one of these, so I don't know what I'm in for, like if I ever decided to do this, but they have little head holes here that you can actually look through. So it's pretty neat. And the bow, the necktie here, they added on later, as well as a giant flower on the side of her head. They added that later. Um, did that even show? Hold on, let me see. Yes, so I forgot to mention that they added their own little decorations to the suits. Here is her flower, okay? So she added a flower, just slapped it right on, and then he had a bow tie. So let me go back to that. Okay, so here's the bow tie. Isn't that fabulous? Again, it looks like a cartoon or something that's out of just it's beautifully done, don't you think? Like, look at the artwork on this. It's just awesome. And another funny thing that happened when they had hid the suits from everybody and they were trying to get in them and get dressed, they didn't necessarily mark which one was his, which one was hers. And there was clearly a height difference. So they bought according to their height, which I thought was great. That was a great idea. But they got in the outfits, realized it was wrong, or maybe they thought it was wrong, and then they switched again. All that to say, they made it down the aisle with the correct costumes, and it was fun for everyone. There was roars of laughter, and everybody enjoyed the music, and then it was just a lovely, lovely ceremony. I mean, there's only so much I can just be joyful about for this moment. It was just lovely, and we called it a night. The sun started going down, and then we were done for the night. It was a beautiful reception, and I'll do another episode just based upon the decorations and food. It's absolutely fabulous. Well, I hope you enjoyed our Jurassic Parkin moment, and maybe you're thinking about doing something a little crazy for your wedding. Maybe you're thinking about the dino suits. Maybe you're not going to do it yourself, but maybe you want somebody coming down as a ring bearer or a flower dino. I don't know. Everybody's got their own ideas and things, and sometimes you don't want to do the traditions, and sometimes you do. You just want to do it with a twist. So, this is Jen signing off for today, and I'll see you on the next episode of Every Kind of I Do.